The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Marcus Rodriguez clutched his daughter's hand in the sterile waiting room of St. Catherine's Children's Hospital. 6-year-old Sophia's fever had spiked to 104 degrees in the middle of the night, and now she lay sleeping fitfully in his lap, her small body trembling despite the blankets. The medical bills were already mounting, bills he couldn't afford on his janitor's salary, but none of that mattered now. All that mattered was the rise and fall of his little girl's chest, each breath a precious gift he'd never take for granted again. Across town, in a gleaming 40-story tower that pierced the Seattle skyline like a steel needle, Victoria Sterling sat behind her mahogany desk reviewing copyright copyright S with the dispassionate efficiency of a surgeon. As CEO of Sterling Enterprises, she'd built her empire from a small tech startup into a billion-dollar conglomerate, and she hadn't gotten there by making emotional decisions. Each copyright copyright represented potential profit margins and quarterly projections and nothing more. "Next," she said curtly to her assistant, barely glancing up from her laptop screen where stock prices flickered in real time. "This one's interesting." Sarah hesitated, sliding the paper across the desk. "Marcus Rodriguez. He's applying for the assistant facilities manager position." Victoria's perfectly manicured fingers drummed against the desk as she scanned the single page. No college degree. Previous experience included dishwasher, warehouse worker, and for the past 3 years, night janitor at a downtown office building. Under references, he listed his daughter's teacher and a priest from the local parish. A laugh escaped her lips, a sharp and dismissive. "Is this a joke? The man's qualified to mop floors, not manage a facilities team in a Fortune 500 company." She tossed the copyright copyright toward the rejection pile. "What's his current salary?" "Probably makes more in a week than he does in a month." Sarah shifted uncomfortably. "Actually, Mom, I called his current supervisor. He said Marcus is the most reliable employee they've ever had. Never missed a day, often works double shifts, and apparently he redesigned their entire inventory system to save the company thousands. I don't care if he invented the mop," Victoria interrupted, her voice cold as winter steel. "Experience matters. Education matters. This company isn't a charity." She stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing down at the city below where thousands of people scurried like ants. Schedule the next interview. That evening, Marcus tucked Sophia into bed in their tiny one-bedroom apartment. The fever had broken, thank God, but the hospital bill sat like a weight in his chest. He'd already picked up extra shifts this week, cleaning office buildings from midnight to 6 a.m., then rushing home to get Sophia ready for school. The interview at Sterling Enterprises had been a long shot anyway. He'd seen the job posting and figured he had nothing to lose by trying. "Daddy, did you get the new job?" Sophia asked sleepily, her dark eyes still glassy from the fever. Marcus smoothed her hair back from her forehead. "Not yet, Mija. But don't worry about that. You just focus on getting better. Mrs. Peterson at school says you're the smartest daddy in the world. She says you help all the other kids with their math homework when you come to pick me up." His throat tightened. "Mrs. Peterson is very kind, and Father Miguel says you're an angel because you fixed the church's heating system for free." Marcus kissed her forehead. "Sleep now, baby girl." 2 weeks later, Victoria Sterling's world tilted on its axis. She was reviewing quarterly reports when her assistant burst through the office doors, face pale and hands shaking. "Mom, there's been an explosion at the Sunshine Children's Home. It's bad." Victoria's blood turned to ice. Sunshine Children's Home near the Orphanage, where she'd lived from age 7 to 18. After her parents died in a car accident. The place that had shaped her, hardened her, but also given her the drive to succeed. She donated millions anonymously over the years, but had never returned in person. How bad? She whispered. The kitchen exploded during dinner prep. No fatalities, but 12 children are hospitalized with severe burns and smoke inhalation. The building is condemned. They need to relocate 43 kids within 72 hours or they'll be split up into the foster system. Victoria was already reaching for her coat. Get my car. Now. The scene at Sunshine Children's Home was chaos. Fire trucks still lined the street, their lights painting the surrounding buildings in urgent reds and blues. Social workers hurried between emergency vehicles with clipboards and grim expressions. And in the middle of it all, directing traffic like a conductor leading an orchestra, was a man Victoria recognized but couldn't quite place. Marcus Rodriguez had arrived at the scene purely by chance. He'd been on his way to pick up Sophia from her after-school program when he saw the smoke. Now, 3 hours later, his janitor's uniform was covered in soot and his hands were scraped from helping firefighters clear debris. He'd organized the older children into groups, set up a makeshift triage area using supplies from his car, and somehow convinced a nearby restaurant to donate sandwiches for the displaced kids. "Sir, you need to step back," a firefighter called to him. "This is a restricted area." "Those are my kids in there," Marcus replied firmly, though he'd never met any of them before today. "Someone needs to coordinate with the social workers about temporary housing. Half these children have nowhere to go." Victoria approached slowly, her designer heels clicking on the broken asphalt. Up close, Marcus looked exhausted but determined, his dark eyes focused entirely on the children clustered around him like chicks seeking shelter from a storm. "You're Marcus Rodriguez," she said quietly. He turned, surprised, to see an impeccably dressed woman in what was clearly a disaster zone. "Do I know you? You applied for a job at my company, Sterling Enterprises." The words felt strange in her mouth. "I'm Victoria Sterling." Recognition dawned on his face, followed by something that might have been disappointment. "Oh, right." He turned back to the children. "Well, as you can see, I'm a bit busy right now." For the first time in 20 years, Victoria Sterling felt small. "What can I do to help?" Marcus looked at her sharply, perhaps hearing something in her voice he hadn't expected. "These kids need emergency housing tonight. The city shelters are full, and they're talking about splitting them up across 3 counties. Some of these children are siblings or they've already lost everything. They can't lose each other too." Victoria pulled out her phone. "I own a conference center in Bellevue. It's empty this week." Her fingers flew across the screen. "It has dormitory-style rooms, a full kitchen, recreational facilities. They can stay there until we figure out something permanent." I grew up at Sunshine," she said simply, "a long time ago." Over the next 72 hours, Victoria Sterling discovered muscles she'd forgotten she had, physical and emotional ones. She found herself scrubbing floors alongside Marcus, organizing supply runs, and perhaps most surprisingly, reading bedtime stories to frighten children who didn't care about her net worth or stock options. Marcus, meanwhile, seemed to be everywhere at once. He fixed a broken heater with nothing but duct tape and determination, organized the older kids into study groups, and somehow convinced a grocery chain to donate food by explaining how the children reminded him of his own daughter. "You're good at this," Victoria told him on the second night as they sat exhausted in the conference center's kitchen, surrounded by empty pizza boxes and sleeping children. "Good at what?" "Leading, managing, caring." She studied his profile in the dim light. "I was wrong about your RA tilde copyright. Some A tilde copyright. Experience isn't just what's written on paper, is it?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "My daughter almost died last month. High fever, emergency room, the works." Sitting in that hospital, Watching her struggle to breathe, I realized that nothing else matters, not money, not status, not impressing people who think they're better than you. Just love. Just showing up. Victoria felt something crack inside her chest to a wall she'd built so long ago she'd forgotten it was there. I haven't shown up for anything in years, she whispered. I've been so busy building my empire that I forgot why I wanted to build it in the first place. Why did you? To prove I mattered. To prove I was worth something. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. Turns out billion-dollar companies can't hug you when you're scared. On the fourth day, Marcus arrived at the conference center with unexpected news. A coalition of local businesses inspired by Victoria's initial donation and Marcus's grassroots organizing had raised enough money to rebuild Sunshine Children's Home. Moreover, 3 families had stepped forward to adopt siblings who'd been in the system for years. But the biggest surprise came from Victoria herself. I'm restructuring Sterling Enterprises, she announced to her board of directors the following week. We're launching a new division focused on community development and social services. And I found the perfect person to head it up. The board members exchanged worried glances. Victoria, you can't just Marcus Rodriguez will serve as Director of Community Outreach, she continued, her voice gaining strength. He'll receive a salary commensurate with his new responsibilities, full benefits, and a staff of his choosing. After the meeting, Victoria found Marcus in the lobby, still wearing his janitor's uniform from his previous job. I never said I'd take it, he said quietly. I know. Victoria sat beside him on the leather couch. But I'm hoping you will. Not because I need you, though I do, but because this city needs you. Those children need you. And frankly, I need to learn how to be human again. Marcus studied her face, seeing past the perfectly applied makeup to the scared little girl who'd once lived at Sunshine Children's Home. What about Sophia? I won't take any job that means less time with my daughter. Bring her. Sterling Enterprises is adding an on-site childcare center. She can do her homework in your office, and I suspect she'll keep us all honest. 6 months later, Marcus stood before the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the new Sunshine Children's Home. The building was beautiful and modern but warm, with plenty of space for children to play and dream and grow. But more importantly, it represented something neither he nor Victoria could have accomplished alone. Sophia tugged on his sleeve. Daddy, look, Miss Victoria is crying. Marcus followed his daughter's gaze to where Victoria stood with a group of children, tears streaming down her face as they showed her their new bedrooms. Happy tears, Mija, he said softly. Sometimes the best things in life make us cry happy tears. As the ribbon fell and the crowd cheered, Marcus thought about the copyright that had started it all, that single page that Victoria had dismissed with laughter. Sometimes the most important qualifications couldn't be measured in degrees or previous experience. Sometimes they could only be measured in love, in showing up, in the simple act of caring about something bigger than yourself. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, someone would see past the paper to the person underneath, someone who understood that true success wasn't measured in dollars, but in the lives you touched along the way.